Mind is also an instrument. Mind cannot think. It is a mind through which I am thinking. But all our sadhana is how to come from this lower three to this level. From up to here, you need guidance. You need a guru, you need a scripture, you need a procedure, a protocol, or a training. All those can be done. But from here, nobody can help you. This mind, the vital energy, and the body as an instrument is the first step in the spirituality. Whereas when the Vedic rishis, they were in the highest level of the, or the deepest of the meditation, they were able to get the glimpse directly of the Supreme.
Namaste viewers. There are three basic compositions of our being: the body, the mind and the spirit. Spirit, the Atma or the soul. Do we really know enough about it, or are we using it like any other term for our conversations? For this, let's seek guidance from an expert. Let's welcome Dr. Nagendra sir. Welcome sir. Dr. Nagendra sir is a Vedic scholar and a medical practitioner. Sir, kindly guide us. What exactly is this essence or the spirit or the Atma that we often talk about? Is there anything that we can derive from the Vedic context?
So in a spiritual path, the very spiritual, what we call it as, the word for spiritual in Sanskrita or in the Vedic, it is called ATHMA. Atma, something pertaining to Atma.
Right.
That is Adi Atma, pertaining to or that is related to Atma. That's a Adhyatmika. The whole of the Vedic, what we call today as a literature or a knowledge, is around that spirituality. So there are multiple levels of how we look at this Atma as such. Today the word, as we use any of the word we use, even something very common words as prana, it's like used in a multiple ways.
Correct.
We don't actually mean that as an energy.
Right.
Prana is something, we don't take it. Over a period of time, it will lose its sanctity and then the actual meaning.
True.
The same thing happened with the Atma also. In the Veda, there is a term, Atma. Atma is the self.
Okay.
It's a very common in the Sanskrit also. Atman is the first self. Atmanipadi. These are very common thing in the Sanskrit. From the Vedic point of view, the spirit as a spirit, so there is multiple representation of the Atma.
Okay.
Now we will go from above downwards, and we will also see bottom up. The top downwards is a easy one to look at it. Where the supreme one we call it as Paramatma, the highest one. What even Krishna says Paramatma. Among all the Atma, this is the highest, the supreme being, that we call it as a Tat. That is the one, Tad Ekam.
Okay.
Now, in one of the episodes, we see that Tat becomes Sat Chitta Ananda, coming into the existence, with the consciousness force and then the bliss. Now it's tried to unfold or manifest itself. So this Atma, we call it as a self. Instead of, let us not use the word spirit, because it's more general term. It's not much you can get unless you have the idea that spirit as a essence only.
Yeah.
Like there is no spirit or a kind of a thing. The spirit, even something like evil spirit. So that's becoming more dilute.
Yes.
So we can avoid that. Instead of that same spirit, we'll use the word self.
Oh, beautiful. Okay.
So when you are writing, we'll say that the highest self is capital S. Anything we capitalize, it means the bigger one.
Right.
So like India becomes I capital, or Bharata becomes capital.
True.
So that self, what we are calling Paramatma, is capital S. When I am talking to the individual, for myself, it becomes small s, self.
Oh,
Very
that's
easy. So it's a small, my
Yeah.
journey is from the small s self to the highest self, capital S.
Okay.
You see how it becomes easier.
Yeah.
But it's not that linear. Now when it's unfolding itself, it is pouring its own energy to the whole of the creation. So everything has got that energy within that. But the thing is, it is to the extent it can hold. What an ant can hold, what an elephant can hold, what can a human can hold.
Right.
So to that extent, it can only have that potential. But potentially, everything is divine.
Yeah. Yeah. Beautiful.
Okay. So this Atma from the Vedic, when I say Veda, it is from the Rig Veda Samhita. That's what I'm quoting. There, they don't discriminate anything between this, because it's all divine. So you don't have to differentiate this from the other. Whereas when the Vedic rishis, they were in the highest level of the deepest of the meditation, they were able to get the glimpse directly of the Supreme. Not reach there, they were able to see. That's why they call Drashtara. Now they are seeing the highest self. They are seeing, and the reflection, that reflection comes out as mantras. Or this is like the hear, that's why it's called Shruti. They may not hear the mantra as such. It's like I get an idea. Do I get the complete of what to do when I get an idea? When I say I got idea, then there are thinking process and the thought formation.
Yeah.
And then you can say, to put it in simple terms, we get an idea that is above the mind, like intuition or something. Then the mind gives a form, that is a thought. Then it comes down, and then further it gets broken down. We use the energy, prana, and then physically we bring it out as a word or a speech or something like an equation or anything. So by the time from idea to thought, there is already some kind of lost energy.
Yeah.
From then it brings to prana, and then if it is very purest form, if there is no personal interest in that, expression will be easier. If you want that, I want to gain the full benefit of all these things, again you add your own self interest into that, it becomes diluted.
Yes.
And then what you express out will be very minimal. Even for that matter, a speech. When you're talking many times, what you get the idea, you may not be able to put it out. You say what I mean, what I mean. Every time I like to say, because I know that I don't mean this, but I'm not able to articulate because the clarity is not clear.
True.
Now you see there is this self here, what we call it as, this is also Atma for the context of to just as a synonym. So I am not a big fan of using such terminology as Atma, Paramatma or anything.
Okay.
So that is because I feel that people get either too much carried away or they get disconnected.
Yeah.
You say Atma, then I cannot understand Atma. Atma is something eternal. So no, that's not the idea at all. So we'll try to make it as simple as possible, but without dilution.
Right.
That's the whole idea. Now this highest self itself is giving out. Now each one of us, now we call ourselves as the sadhaka now towards the spirituality. Each one of us within us have an aspect of this highest self.
Yeah.
That aspect of the purest form of the highest self, we call it as the self or the Atma.
Yeah.
Now these are many such in that. So now this Atma, it needs an instrument to work.
True.
So to this, I am calling it as a self.
Okay.
Okay, there are many approaches to look at it. By itself, Atma is in the pure form. But the moment it starts into the action, it needs a medium.
Yeah.
So that we call it as, Sri Aurobindo call that as a psychic being. Because this is through the psychic being the Atma is working. If you take a tunnel like a tube, if the one end is the self or the Atma, the other end of it which is actually acting, it is a witness. It is no, it's like we know that Atma is always pure, you cannot destroy that, it's like an energy.
Yes.
But to act, it has to take another form. Just like the Paramatma has taken a smaller self and then acting, now this becomes psychic being, which now we refer to as the self. And to this self, we have the instruments, mind, the life force, and then the body.
Okay.
Now, when I say spiritual, first thing you need to identify is, I am not my body, I am not my, what we call as the life force or the vital energy, I am not my mind or the intellect. When I say my body, that means I own my body. Who is actually owning? When I say I don't have energy, then who doesn't have energy? When I say I think, it's not the mind it is thinking, it is through the mind I am thinking.
Yeah.
Mind is also an instrument. Mind cannot think. It is a mind through which I am thinking. Now to identify this self, which is actually using this mind, the vital energy and the body as an instrument, is the first step in the spirituality. If you want to call that as Atma for the time being, okay. But that is identifying the self, the smaller self is the first step. To act, it has got its own code. That it's called a psychic being because this is like it can act. It's a being, like it's a physical being, vital being, mental being. Again, in the mind, we have the also as an aspect of emotional being as a part of the vital world. So similarly, these are beings, but the highest supreme being is there.
Wow, beautiful.
Okay. Now, what we already have access is the physical being. I know physical being is made up of the 5 elements. So it is bound to form and deform. What we call as a birth and death.
Yes.
Our terminology is birth and death.
True.
From the Vedic concept, it is a transformation. It's a form, it gets transformed. Even the transformer in electricity is the same, one level to the other level.
True.
So all that it is in the 5 elements, they come together, we call it as a birth with the vital or the energy. Now it is life. Now when it decides that now I don't want this anymore, then it disintegrates. That it leaves the body. So that body immediately the prana is left, the body will lose the identity. It should be discarded, getting back to the Panchabhutas. either through cremation, burying or burning. You have to give it back to the elemental form. So now once this is clear, the physical being, then I have the vital being, where the vital being are all the desires, anger and everything. There is an emotional aspect of this that we call emotional being. If you identify body itself, myself as an Atma, there is an Atma for that also.
Yes.
It's a being.
Yes.
But you identify your body as everything, then all your needs will be surrounded by this, will be self-centered on this physical body. Do all your makeup and then you want to do all the shopping,
staying
you have to
there,
look good.
yeah.
All becomes materialistic, owning the material things like money and everything. And if you are identifying yourself with the emotional being, all things will be emotion. I want to be happy, I want to be very great, have the fame, and all those things becomes the emotional being. Then you have the mind, the mental being, where I want to get the knowledge, I become intellectual, then let people recognize me out of it. All this becomes the mental being. The mind, an aspect of it is intellect, an aspect of it is thinking, an aspect of it is actually memory. All these are part of the mind. Now, why do I have all these things? Because I want to use this as my instrument. It's like a doctor using a stethoscope.
Right.
By itself, stethoscope doesn't carry any meaning.
Right.
It's an instrument.
True.
Or for a warrior, it may be an ammunition, a gun.
Yes.
So now, all these, we have to go to the one step back, that is the being, that psychic being.
Yeah.
From here, the spiritual journey starts. Now, you start from your identity with this. First, you have to lose your identity here and then gain the identity behind. So, that we say when we say, it's myself, going back. That is the myself I am calling.
Yeah.
So, from that point, if you start looking, then your journey from outside will start going higher. Now, from here, higher journey into that is another aspect, what is beautifully explained. Like we see lower three, from then the bridging is the Vijnanamaya Kosha, the Mahas or the Satyam, Rutam, Bruhat.
Yes.
Rutam is truth in action, Bruhat is vastness. The mind start evolving. Now, this psychic being will start utilizing these three for in the best way, using the body in the best way, and then using the vital force in the best way, using the mind and the mental capacity to the best way to guide me to the higher levels. Now this goes, now identify, because once you are not identified with this, the lower three bondages, like you now liberated now from this bondage. I think last time we had that about liberation.
Okay, yeah.
Now you liberate yourself, now this journey becomes easy. Then you will get a clarity. But all our sadhana is how to come from this lower three to this level. From up to here, you need guidance. You need a guru, you need a scripture, you need a procedure, a protocol, or a training. All those can be done. But from here, nobody can help you.
Okay.
Because it is the pure, from the knowledge to higher knowledge. It is not from ignorance to knowledge. Up to there, it was ignorance to knowledge. Now it is knowledge to higher knowledge. In the pure form to purest form. So there you identify yourself. But this path, you should be very careful that you should leave out this and then being here. Now, this is what Veda is calling the spiritual. Once this is done, then you will have the glimpses of Satchidananda, where the idea of spiritual is you take in existence, you have everything. That is the harmonious state. That is the samatva, both pain and pleasure, knowledge and ignorance, existence and non-existence, vidya, avidya, jnana, ajnana, darkness and light, all have got its role. Now that up to mind, lower three, up to the mind, it's a divided consciousness. It divides me from the other. It is not a weakness, it is required for specific action. Now when you know that, till then your mind or emotion actually driving, controlling you. You don't even know that your emotion is controlling you. You think that I get angry. In fact, very classical example is when I get angry, you will know that the anger is coming from outside. It is hitting me and I am reacting to that. It's not that anger coming out of me. Actually, the feeling of good that comes from inside. You see what is coming from inside, what is coming from outside. If you can differentiate that, these are the ones when you actually focus on doing certain things in that path, in very regularly, systematically, and then sincerely, with that aspiration of going higher, then this becomes clear and then your path goes on. Now, whatever that is not required, you can keep on taking out. This journey to the highest self is the spirituality, and there chanting a mantra or doing a meditation, all these will help. But what to be done, that then the identification of the self, or that what we call Atma, is depend on where did you center yourself. So if you are still centered in your physical body, continue with that. If you still with the emotion, give some time. Don't take it as negative, oh, I cannot do that, because yourself want that experience now. Let it get it complete experience of it. Let it have the joy of going through that pain and pleasure. Don't make it short. Otherwise, at a higher level, it becomes even difficult. If the mind wants to have that fame or anything and enjoy that luxuries, let it do it. Once that is complete, like having food, once you eat completely and the stomach is full, naturally you say that I don't want, even if your favorite food. Saturation. But once that happens, till then don't begin in a hurry. That's why it needs lots and lots of patience. Spirituality is all about the patience.
Doctor, after hearing this from you, I was just thinking of something throughout your explanation, that if anybody who is in the health industry, be it a medical doctor or a therapist or a counselor, if they can get a glimpse of this understanding, when there's a patient or a therapy client approaching them or seeking them for help, of course the intention of the patient or the therapy client is to seek help to release the pain or the suffering. But I think the vision of the therapist or a doctor will be way beyond that, wanting that therapy client or the patient to perceive the real intention or the calling or the experience the Atma wants to receive and observe from this, isn't it? So this is so beautiful, and thank you so much. Well, viewers, I'm sure after watching this whole episode, the very way that we connect with our fellow beings is going to be way beyond just the physical appearance, and getting straight into the connection of the essence of that being, isn't it? So I'm sure you're all curious to know a lot more about these terminologies from the Vedic philosophy, but for that you'll have to wait till our next episode. Thank you so much for watching. If you liked this episode, kindly share with your loved ones, and do not forget to subscribe to our channel. Thank you so much, Doctor. I'll meet you again in the next episode. Thank you, everybody.